Hello and welcome, wherever you are in the world right now. I'm glad you're here. Maybe you're lying in bed with the soft hum of night around you, or perhaps you're just beginning to wind down after a long day. What time is it for you? It just passed sunset, or deep into the quiet hours of early morning. And where are you listening from? A quiet village, a bustling city, a place touched by ocean wind or mountain air? Wherever you are, this space is yours now. A gentle corner of the universe where your mind can rest, and where curiosity drifts like starlight. Tonight, we're going somewhere deep and mysterious, to the edge of gravity, where light bends and time slows. Are you ready? Let's begin. Slowly, softly, just breathe and float. You stand still in the hush of night, and yet the ground under you is not still at all. You might think of stone as forever, of soil as unmoving, but that is only a kindness told to our human senses, for in truth, the planet breathes and stirs. Beneath you, always shifting, always restless. Close your eyes for a moment and feel its subtle thrum. Imagine the crust of the earth, not as a single piece, but as a vast, uneven puzzle laid across a molten heart. Each fragment is a raft of stone, floating atop slow rivers of rock, so hot they flow like honey across the ages. These plates, these continents, and oceans slip past one another, collide in an endless slow-motion choreography. Picture the continents as great icebergs of granite, wandering upon a hidden sea of fire. The boundaries where they meet are places of unquiet power. Here mountains rise in wrinkled folds as plates crumple together, and elsewhere, deep ocean trenches yawn like unhealed scars where one slab of stone plunges beneath another. This is the language of plate tectonics, the endless wanderings of the Earth's crust, guided by forces that move too slowly for you to feel in a lifetime, yet unstoppable across the breadth of geological time. You might wonder in this dark hour before sleep how something so slow could matter. But look around you. Every mountain, every valley, every chain of volcanoes, every earthquake that rattles cities from their foundations, all are the fingerprints of this ancient dance. The ground beneath your bed tonight was born of these motions. It has been remade again and again, shaped by collisions older than any human memory. You sleep on restless bones of a world that will not stop moving, no matter how still you stand upon it. Far below, a glowing mantle churns with heat left over from the birth of the earth. That heat is a reminder of cosmic beginnings of meteor impacts and ancient collisions of radioactive elements breaking down in slow release, warming the stone like embers that never fade. This heat is what keeps the rock pliable enough to flow, what gives the continents permission to wander, what keeps volcanoes alive in their fiery pulse. Sometimes, in a quiet moment, you might imagine that you can hear the creaking sighs of the plates as they move, like a ship's hull shifting against the waves. The mountains themselves are time made visible. The Alps, Himalayas, the Andes, all standing as monuments to collisions past and ongoing. They rise because the plates refuse to yield, crushing together until rock buckles and folds into impossible heights. Those heights will someday crumble and wash away, carried by rivers back to the sea. where their sediments will settle, be buried, and harden, waiting for the next great push to lift them skyward once again. The earth is always building and erasing, painting and then scraping the canvas clean. Think of the sea floor spreading apart at mid-ocean ridges. Here, magma wells up like a candle flame, cooling to form brand new crust, pushing older rocks outward. At the opposite edge of the ocean, crust returns to the mantle in deep trenches, melting down to become part of the cycle once more. It is a planetary breath, an inhale and exhale, though stretched over tens of millions of years. You might imagine that the earth dreams in these cycles, each breath a chapter in a story far vaster than any human life. Sometimes the earth's dream stirs violently. An earthquake strikes without warning, a reminder of the built-up strain. Along locked boundaries, you may feel the ground tremble and realize in that sudden terror how alive this planet is, how its great bones shift, grinding against one another until they can no longer hold. And then they slip, releasing energy stored over centuries in a single moment. The world is not malicious. It is only true to its nature, remaking itself as it always has. As you lie in the quiet, consider that you live on a floating fragment of stone, drifting over fiery currents, riding on forces too grand to fully see. The continents seem eternal, yet they have been in other places, at other times, assembled into supercontinents and then broken apart, like children's blocks scattered on a playroom floor. Once, Africa and South America fit together, their shapes still whispering of their shared past. And before that, even larger unions of land came together and separated again. In cycles of creation and division that echo through deep time, the puzzle of plates is never solved because it never stays the same. The Atlantic Ocean widens, a slow tear in the fabric of an old continent. The Pacific shrinks, its ring of fire reminding us with volcanoes and quakes that nothing is secure. Even the places that feel safe tonight, places where cities sprawl and people sleep unaware, lie along seams of energy that can awaken with terrible suddenness. And yet, despite this, there is a strange comfort in knowing the earth is alive. A static, dead world would offer no mountains, no rich soils, no renewal. The planet's endless churning is what makes it habitable, what refreshes its surface and renews the chemistry of life. So you rest on these shifting plates, held by gravity, but carried on a vast conveyor belt of stone. With each breath you take, the planet itself breathes, too, but so slowly that its exhalations seem invisible. You share this breath, for the air you inhale once rose from volcanic vents, carrying the gases that made oceans and sky. Even your bones, rich in calcium, were once dissolved in ancient seas, hardened into limestone, then raised again to mountain heights, ground to dust, and carried back to the sea to begin again. Tonight, you stand upon a world of restlessness, and yet you can sleep peacefully, knowing this motion is as old as the stars. You are part of it, a small moment on the skin of a planet that never stops shifting. Listen for its slow heartbeat beneath the stone. Let it lull you like a lullaby from the deep interior, reminding you that change is the Earth's oldest promise. Its shifting plates are a kind of gentle rocking, far grander than any cradle. And you, brief as a candle flame, are rocked to sleep upon it. Feel the mystery of it settle into your bones. How does a world that shakes and tears itself apart hold you so gently? How does the same violence that raises mountains also cradle you in the night? These are questions without final answers, but they invite you to wonder, to feel, just for a moment, that you belong to something immeasurably vast, something that holds you even while it moves beneath you, and as you drift toward the next chapter of dreams. You might ask yourself, if the very ground can wander and reshape itself, then what else in this universe might change, unseen, while you rest? Beneath the hush of night, you feel the faint echo of yesterday's fractures, woven through the bones of the continents like secret scars. These are not fresh wounds, but ancient ones, rifts, faults, and tears that split the land long before any human dream took shape. You stand quietly breathing while the earth whispers the memory of these cracks. They are reminders that nothing remains whole forever, that even continents must break apart to begin again. If you could peel away the forest, the soil, the cities, you would see these scars tracing through the rock. Lines where granite split and pulled apart, where molten rock once surged to fill the gaps, freezing in place like stitches on torn skin. These lines are more than simple breaks. They are the signatures of drifting continents, drifting hearts, lands that dared to let go of their neighbors and wander into new oceans in one long ago chapter of the planet's history. The continents came together in a supercontinent Pangea, a colossal puzzle fitted tight. But the Earth's restlessness refused to let it last. Deep beneath, hot currents pushed and pulled, prying open wounds in the crust. Rifts yawned where the land had been joined, cracking Pangea like an old clay pot left too long in the sun. Through these cracks, new oceans were born, and the continents began their lonely journeys across widening seas. These rifts, you might say, are places where the earth dared to imagine new shapes for itself. Rift valleys stretched like vast, sunken hallways, the rock there, forever marked by separation. Along their walls, you can see layers of lava, memories of magma that rushed upward to fill the void, hardening into black stone. In these places, the planet reveals its secret language. To grow, one must break. To change, one must allow something to fracture. The African continent holds such a story in its heart, the East African Rift, where the land itself is pulling apart as if trying to make room for something unnamed. Deep faults slice through the highlands, cracking the cradle of humanity, where our ancestors first learned to walk. Lakes fill these valleys, cradled by the wounds of the earth, and volcanoes rise in lines along the tier, venting their hidden fires. Even now, the rift widens, slow as the ticking of a cosmic clock, hinting that one day a new ocean will spill across this land, cutting Africa in two. This is not violence for its own sake. It is change written into the planet's design. The world breaks itself open so that heat can escape, so that mountains can rise, so that the continents can wander and life can spread to new shores. There is a patient logic to this restlessness, like the steady breath of a sleeping giant. And in that breath, you find comfort, a reassurance that even in breaking, there is purpose. At night, you might dream of these cracks as ancient rivers of time, carrying pieces of memory through. The crust, the scars hold the memory of oceans that once opened and then closed again, of lands torn apart and then reunited in the next grand cycle. The Appalachian Mountains, now old and worn, were once the edge of an ancient ocean's closing jaws, folded and crushed when continents collided. Their roots remember rifts that have healed, scars long faded, but still visible if you look deeply enough. Sometimes these fractures remain hidden, sleeping beneath layers of younger stone. You might walk over them 1,000 times, unaware of the silent story beneath your feet. Yet in rare moments, the land will speak again, an earthquake rolling through old, buried faults, reminding you that the past is never fully gone. The earth remembers its deepest cracks are never fully erased. Imagine tracing these ancient lines with your fingertips, following their meandering paths across the continents. You would feel history under your hands, the story of how the world reshaped itself, how new oceans were born, how entire ecosystems shifted with the land. Plants and animals moved with these drifting lands, evolving in strange new directions, separated by widening seas, only to meet again in far-off futures. In a way, these cracks in the continents are the artists of life itself, drawing new borders, forcing living things to adapt and transform. You might picture the breakup of Pangaea as a kind of great forgetting, a letting go. A single continent once wrapped around the globe, holding all living things together. But then, a force from below pulled it apart, scattering its pieces like seeds on the wind. And from that scattering, life blossomed in countless forms. Breaking made way for diversity, for movement, for chance. It made way for you, one day, to exist. Rifts can be places of gentle wonder, too. In Iceland, where the mid-Atlantic ridge breaches the ocean's surface, you can stand with 1 foot on the Eurasian plate and 1 foot on the North American plate, feeling the tension of continents pulling away from each other. There, the land steams and bubbles, a vivid reminder that the Earth's crust is never at rest. In the golden evening light, the cracks look almost peaceful, as if the land is simply breathing, not breaking. The thought might soften you as you fall towards sleep, that what appears as violence can also be a kind of creation. Cracks invite newness. They offer space for something undiscovered to rise. As the rift widens, magma wells up, becoming new land, fresh ground to stand upon. This cycle, repeated across the eons, is why continents do not grow stale. They are reborn again and again, through breakage and renewal, through the patient opening of wounds that heal only by transforming. You too might carry unseen cracks within yourself, memories, regrets, places where you have broken and healed. The earth is a mirror, reminding you that those fissures are not failures, but opportunities. It shows you that something more beautiful can grow from a place that once fell apart. The continents are not ashamed of their scars. They wear them openly, with the confidence of something ancient and wise. As you rest, you might picture the next chapter of this world's transformation. The East African rift will keep widening. Iceland will keep drifting. Somewhere far beneath your feet, magma will rise, solidify, and push the plates further apart. The puzzle of the world is never finished, never final. That unfinished quality is what makes it alive. And so the cracks in the cradle of continents invite you to wonder what will come next. If lands can break and heal, if oceans can be born from wounds, then how many more chapters lie ahead for this world? How many more times will the earth redraw its own face, shift its heart, invent new mountains, erase old valleys? Feel the mystery settle softly over you like a blanket. 8. There is no rush to answer these questions tonight. Let them drift with you into sleep, gentle and unresolved. The way a river drifts through a canyon carved by the earth's long memory. For tomorrow, you will travel deeper still, to follow those cracks down into the molten fires that feed them, and to ask what burns so patiently, so endlessly, to keep the world remaking itself while you dream. Close your eyes and step into a vast ballroom, but not of marble or candlelight. This ballroom is the entire surface of the earth, stretching out beneath your sleeping body. Imagine the floor of this grand hall made of rock, painted with the familiar shapes of continents and oceans. Beneath that floor, a slow, unseen current stirs, a glowing sea of molten rock, warm and restless, moving with the patience of the ages. Floating upon that sea are the continents, your continents. Great rafts of stone that never stop drifting. In this dance, there is no orchestra, only heat and gravity keeping time. The continents move with a deliberate grace, colliding and separating, pushing against one another in a choreography measured in millions of years. They circle and sway like old partners who know each other's every motion but cannot stay apart forever. Each step of their waltz leaves marks upon the world, mountains rising, valleys deepening, coasts reshaping, islands appearing like jewels cast upon the sea. Feel yourself joining this dance, even if only in your mind, floating above the plates as they glide. See Africa and Eurasia inching closer, closing the Mediterranean a breath at a time. Watch the Atlantic growing wider, pulling the Americas and Europe apart with a steady, quiet insistence. Picture India, a small, determined dancer, crashing into Asia and lifting the Himalayas skyward in a dramatic, unstoppable lift. This is the waltz of continents, and it has been going on since before any living eye saw the dawn. Beneath them, the mantle churns with unstoppable heat, rising in slow columns called plumes, sinking in cooler places where ancient plates are dragged back into the deep. You might think of these as the dancer's hands, guiding the motion unseen, but essential. The plates ride on top of these currents like lily pads upon a pond, only the pond is made of rock, so hot it flows. And though the motion is almost too slow for any person to notice, it is relentless, building and rebuilding the face of the earth. This waltz is sometimes gentle, sometimes violent. Where plates slide past each other, earthquakes rattle their boundaries with sudden, sharp reminders that stone is never fully calm. Where plates pull apart, new crust is born, spilling molten rock into the gap, cooling into solid land. And where plates push together, mountains rise in crumpled folds of rock, high and proud, until they too are worn down by wind and rain. Creation and destruction, step and counterstep. The plates move in a rhythm that never ends, in their slow embrace. The continents have rewritten the shape of life itself. The rise of a mountain chain can change the course of rivers, shift the wind, alter rainfall, and decide which creatures thrive and which vanish. When the Atlantic widened, creatures were divided, evolving apart and becoming strangers to one another. And when continents came back together, those separated worlds collided again, bringing competition, conflict, and new opportunities for life to bloom. You might think of this dance as harsh, a grand push and pull without concern for those who live upon the stage. Yet in another way, it is generous. Without these moving plates, there would be no fresh minerals, no renewal of the soil, no carbon cycle to refresh the air. The mountains that rise from collision feed rivers with their rich sediments, nourishing plains far below, volcanoes that rise from subduction zones, pour out gases that help form our atmosphere. All this generosity is born from the slow, graceful dance of continents, moving over their hidden sea of fire. Feel the calm in that idea. While you rest, the plates glide on, indifferent to the tiny scale of human worry. They have no haste, no anxiety, only their steady, million-year rhythm. Their pace is the pace of deep time, a language so slow it feels like a lullaby, each note drawn out over eons. You are a brief visitor to this stage, but you are carried by it nonetheless, carried by mountains that rose and fell, by valleys shaped by collision, by plains formed from ancient oceans closing. If you listen closely, perhaps you can sense their music. It is the low murmur of the mantle, the deep shifting of basalt, the cracking of granite under pressure, the faraway rumble of a subduction zone. In your dreams, you might hear it like a heartbeat that echoes from below, steady and reassuring. The earth keeps its tempo, and all life moves to that hidden beat. Look around this ballroom of continents. The patterns are still changing. Australia moves northward on a collision course with Asia that will raise mountains in some far future you cannot see. The Atlantic will continue to widen until its floor grows old and heavy. Then it will sink into new trenches, closing the ocean one day. Africa will pivot and twist, reshaping the Mediterranean. Nothing stays still. No step is ever truly final. And in that endless improvisation, the earth remains alive. Every continent is a partner in this waltz. They lean close, drift away, collide, and part again. Their edges are battered and reshaped. Their centers are stretched and folded. But they remain dancers, always in motion. Even the smallest microplates, slivers of crust barely bigger than a country, take part. Sliding along with the giants, pulled by the same currents, caught in the same swirl of forces. You might find a kind of quiet reassurance in their certainty. The continents do not question the dance. They do not hesitate, nor do they cling when it is time to separate. They simply follow the music, one step at a time, through the long ages of Earth's history. There is a lesson there for your own heart, to trust the currents that move you, to let go when change comes, to know that each collision, each separation, is part of a larger story still unfolding in your imagination. Drift with them now. Float over the wide Atlantic. Feel the crust being born at the mid-ocean ridges, pushed outward like fresh pages in a book. Glide past the jagged trenches of the Pacific, where plates are pulled down to melt and become part of the Earth's deep interior again. Fly above the Himalayas, whose peaks still rise, grain by grain, as India presses on. In every place, the same quiet law holds true. The planet renews itself through motion. Even the shorelines where you have stood calm beaches, cliffs weathered by salt, oh, they're shaped to this waltz. Each grain of sand is a piece of an older mountain, ground, fined by time, carried by rivers, sorted by waves, spread by tides. The plates built those mountains, then carried them into the rain and the wind to be worn away, so the oceans might cradle the land once more. The same dance that raises high peaks makes soft beaches where you can rest your feet. Let that image hold you as you lie in the dark. You are not apart from this rhythm. You are part of it, made of atoms forged in old volcanoes, bones built from minerals that once rose in mountains, skin washed by waters that ran down from glacial peaks. You are a child of the moving continents, born to a world that never stops shifting. Listen now to the silence around you. Feel how still the night seems. Yet below, the plates continue their patient turning, tracing patterns so slow that only the rocks remember them. You are rocked to sleep upon their endless dance, held by forces as old as the planet itself, and as steady as any cradle. And as you begin to slip into a deeper dream, you might wonder if these continents can circle each other forever, shaping and reshaping the earth. What other unseen dances might exist in the heart of this universe? What other forces, patient and unhurried, guide stars, planets, and even galaxies in motion so slow they can only be called eternal? The waltz of the plates is only one step in a far grander choreography, waiting for you to glimpse it next. In the hush of night, you might believe the world is perfectly still, as if nothing stirs beyond the gentle hush of your own breath. Yet, under your dreaming mind, the earth is shifting, straining, pressing upward. There, deep in the hidden seams, where continents meet, mountains are being born. They rise not with the rush of a wave, but with the slow, powerful certainty of time itself. Stone upon stone, they lift toward the sky, monuments to the planet's quiet persistence. Close your eyes and imagine two giant crustal plates colliding far below. There is no sound you can hear, no tremor you can feel tonight, but still they press against one another with the weight of entire continents. Like two dancers drawn together by invisible music, they fold and buckle the land between them. Slowly, over centuries, those folds gather height, sculpted into ridges and peaks. Each rise is written in rock, a memory of countless collisions, too small to see, but too mighty to deny. the Himalayas, the Andes, the Alps, names we learn as children. Yet to stand before them is to stand before a miracle of relentless force. They are not accidents, but the result of a grand, patient drama unfolding over millions of years. Beneath their snowy crowns lie roots that reach down into the crust, deeper than you can fathom, stabilizing their heights as they climb higher. You might think of them as icebergs of stone, with most of their mass hidden, anchored to the foundations of the earth itself. Each mountain is a monument to resistance, to the refusal to flatten or yield. And yet, mountains are also soft in their own way. Rain smooths them, rivers carve them, wind polishes their slopes, breaking them down grain by grain. Building and crumbling, a push and pull as old as the continents themselves. That is the rhythm you feel if you listen closely. A slow upward breath, followed by a long, gentle sigh. At night, you might imagine a mountain being born, stone crumpling like cloth in the hands of the planet, lifted by deep, hidden strength. Picture the pressure that gathers, straining until the crust gives way, sending ripples through the land. Then, slowly, the folds solidify, rise, and hold their place against gravity's endless pull. These newborn ranges do not spring up overnight, but if you could speed time forward, you would see their peaks surge toward the sky like waves of stone. Where these collisions happen, the land quakes. Earthquakes are the short, sharp punctuation marks in the long poem of mountain building. Reminders that rock is not as silent as it seems. The force of one plate diving under another stores energy like a coiled spring until it snaps, releasing its power in a shiver that rattles cities and shatters valleys. Yet even these quakes are part of the slow forging of the highlands, each tremor helping the crust rearrange itself to hold a higher peak as you breathe in the calm darkness. Think of the stories these mountains carry. The shells of tiny sea creatures crushed into limestone, lifted from ancient oceans to stand on the roof of the world. Fossils of coral reefs found thousands of meters above sea level, bearing witness to the fact that where there is mountain now, there was once sea. Life is folded into these stones, locked there for millions of years until they break free in fragments that tumble down slopes. Return to rivers, return to the sea. Mountains shape the world in ways you can feel, even from far away. They guide. The winds draw rain from the sky and cast deep shadows where valleys bloom with green. They block warm air, channel cold streams, and cradle entire ecosystems in their heights and hollows. Even the path of your weather is carved by their presence, drawn across the ridges and through the passes, sculpted by walls of rock taller than any dream. To rest tonight is to rest on the patient shoulders of these mountains, whether you see them or not. Their stone supports your valleys, their sediments enrich your plains, their rivers quench your thirst. Their stories are written in every grain of sand that drifts downstream. A mountain is more than an obstacle on a map. It is a generous ancestor, providing the gift of life far beyond its slopes. If you listen carefully, you might hear their pulse, impossibly slow, but steady. That slow, upward breath, driven by heat and gravity, will not stop. Even as mountains wear away, the forces beneath will raise new ones. It is the Earth's promise of renewal, a reassurance that even the tallest things will someday fall, and even the smallest stones can rise again. Picture the Appalachians, now gentle and rounded, worn down by time until they seem more hill than mountain. Once they stood as grand as the Himalayas, jagged and proud, born from the closing of an ancient ocean. But the rains came, the winds came, and the Appalachians sank into softer forms. Their bones, however, still shaped the eastern lands, a quiet foundation under forest and field. In their humbler heights, you see the truth of mountains, that rising and falling are one story, told over and over through time. As you drift deeper toward sleep, let these thoughts soften you. Mountains are not born to last forever, yet they endure long enough to teach us about patience, about strength, about letting go. They show us that transformation can be slow and beautiful, that becoming something new might take more time than we can measure. But it will happen all the same. The next time you look up at a distant peak, remember how it came to be. Collisions of rock, slow as a heartbeat, building something that seems eternal. And yet, these heights are only temporary notes in a song of rising and falling that will go on long after we are gone. Lie still now and feel the ground beneath you. Somewhere, far below, stone is crumpling, faults are shifting, and a newborn ridge is beginning its climb toward the clouds. This quiet night is holding the first breath of a mountain that will stand long after your own dreams have ended. And as you turn gently toward tomorrow, you may wonder if mountains can rise from the sea to touch the sky. What other hidden forces might be lifting the universe itself, moment by moment, even as you sleep? Out beyond the gentle rise and fall of the waves, beyond where sunlight can ever reach, the sea floor itself is stirring. You might think of the ocean depths as unchanging, a silent, endless plain of silt and stone. But deep beneath the waves, the planet's restless heart opens cracks in the crust, letting something ancient and molten rise into the cold. Here, in these black abysses, new worlds are quietly born, hidden from the stars. Close your eyes and drift downward in your mind, sinking through layers of blue until even the faintest light disappears. The water grows cold and heavy, pressing against you with its silent weight. At the mid-ocean ridges, the crust parts like a slow, quiet wound, and molten rock seeps upward, glowing softly in the darkness. This is where the oceans open, where new land is made, one breath at a time. Here, between the drifting plates, magma rises from the mantle, fresh and eager, spilling into the gap and cooling into solid stone. It is a birth that no eye ever sees. Directly, a hidden creation so slow it seems almost eternal. Over millions of years, this steady spreading builds vast ridges beneath the ocean, like a seam that stitches the earth together. The Atlantic, the Pacific, the Indian Oceans, all their basins have been widened and rebuilt by this gentle, unstoppable process. In the hush of night, you might picture these ridges as long, underwater mountain chains stretching like the backbone of a sleeping giant across the ocean floors. Even though no moonlight ever touches them, they are alive with motion. Magma wells up, hardens, and is carried away on each side, so that new crust is always forming. This quiet force shapes the continents, pushing them apart with patient, irresistible pressure. There is something wondrous about how such violence can also be so gentle. The plates pull apart with glacial slowness, just a few centimeters a year, yet in that movement, entire oceans are reborn. The raw heat of the mantle is delivered to the surface, but in small, manageable gifts, each eruption of lava building a little more crust. From that crust will come islands and eventually continents. Should enough time and force gather, beneath these ridges, the planet's pulse is strong. Hydrothermal vents, like hot springs of the deep, gush mineral, rich water into the ocean, feeding strange, tenacious forms of life. Tube worms and blind shrimp thrive here, living off the energy of the earth itself, as if the planet were sharing its secret warmth with them alone. These creatures have no need for sunlight. They dine on chemical energy, a hidden feast drawn straight from the crust. If you listen carefully, in the calm of your mind, you might hear the crackle of new stone cooling, the quiet hiss of water meeting fresh lava. It is a peaceful sound, despite its origins in fire. The world remakes itself here, piece by piece, beneath crushing pressures, in darkness so profound no human eye could see it. And still, life finds a way to bloom, to seize these newborn places as their home. The continents, the mountains you have seen, all owe their beginning to this process. It is from mid-ocean ridges that new crust is born, carried slowly across the oceans until, one day, it meets another plate and is pulled down again. This cycle is the beating heart of plate tectonics, a circulation that rebuilds the face of the planet again and again. Without these silent openings, the Earth would go stale, its surface unrenewed, its chemistry starved of new material pill for a moment. The strangeness of it, the seafloor is both ancient and always young. The rocks near the ridges are fresh, sometimes just days old, while those farthest away have traveled for hundreds of millions of years before returning to the mantle. It is a rolling highway of stone, a living record of the planet's slow, unhurried breath. You might imagine each segment of crust as a traveler, born in fire, aged by the ocean's cool darkness, then finally taken back into the deeps to begin anew. The water above these ridges is cold and eternal, black as ink, pressing down with the weight of entire continents. But far below, in the narrow rift where the plates part, there is light, faint, flickering light from molten rock and mineral reactions. A glow too weak for stars to notice, but strong enough to mark a birth. It is a hidden flame, a candle, deep within the sea, quietly tending the planet's future. As you lie still tonight, feel the slow motion of the continents above these ridges. Africa and South America pulling apart, bit by bit, carried away on the conveyor belt of crust. You rest upon a land that was once made this way, built from magma that cooled in some forgotten ocean of long ago. Every grain of sand, every rock in your garden was born from that first surge of molten hope, rising through a crack in the sea. If you let your mind drift further, you might imagine the future of these ridges. They will keep opening, keep feeding the oceans with fresh crust for tens of millions of years more. And one day, perhaps, they will close again, swallowed by new collisions, the way old wounds sometimes reopen before they fully heal. This, too, is part of the Earth's promise. Nothing is forever fixed, but nothing is ever truly lost, either in their dark depths. The mid-ocean ridges write a quiet message that creation need not shout, that birth can be hidden, patient, and nearly invisible, yet still change the world. Even as you sleep, new lands are forming below the waves, so distant and secret you might never see them. But they shape your tomorrow just the same. Let that thought rest with you as you breathe in the calm. The world does not always remake itself in daylight or in sight of the sun. Some transformations are born far from any witness in the silent, cold places where only the earth's heart remembers to look. And these transformations are no less powerful, no less beautiful, for being hidden as you ease into dreams. You might feel the steady confidence of these ocean ridges, opening, building, renewing in the deep night of the sea. They have no hurry, no fear of darkness. They work in the shadows, trusting that time itself will carry their gift to the surface. One day, in mountains and islands and continents, still waiting to be born. And as you drift onward to the next chapter, you might wonder if the earth can create whole worlds in silence and darkness. What hidden places inside you might also be opening, unseen, ready to become something new. You lie still, and the weight of the world begins to settle, not as a burden, but as a gentle layering. Just as you rest now, quietly, beneath blankets and shadows, the earth too folds into itself. Down below your feet, deeper than any cave or ocean trench, begins a journey as ancient as time, a slow surrender, a descent into the dreaming dark. Picture the crust beneath the sea, cool, heavy, basalt-borne. Over time, it grows old and weary, burdened by sediment and cold. It starts to sink, nudged by the restless press of another plate. There is no struggle, no sudden motion, just a long, slow bowing. This is subduction, a quiet folding inward. One plate yields, slipping beneath another. The mantle, a journey downward that can take millions of years. As you breathe, feel the gravity of that slow dive, not as fear or fall, but as trust, the way you give into sleep. It is transformation, an elemental lullaby. The earth does not waste its past. It melts it down and remakes it, quietly, from below. As the descending plate dives deeper, pressure builds. Heat intensifies. Water once held tight in oceanic rocks is released, like memories steeped in silence. That water softens the mantle, lowers its melting point. A delicate alchemy begins. Magma is born, not explosively, but with a slow glow, like a thought emerging from the warmth of feeling. You might imagine the plate vanishing forever, but nothing in Earth's body is truly lost. What subducts will rise again, not in the same form, not in the same place, but as something new. Volcanic arcs trace this promise along the edges of continents. Japan, the Andes, the Aleutians, all born from subduction's silent craft, and so you rest, knowing even descent can lead to creation. Look closer through the curtain of time. The Pacific plate slides beneath the Eurasian plate. In its descent, a chain of volcanoes rises like sentinels above the sea. Each eruption is a whisper from below, a fragment of melted crust returning to light. Each island is a letter in a long-forgotten language, the earth writing itself anew. Yet the motion is slow, patient beyond imagination. A fingernail's growth in a year is faster than this drifting, but the scale makes it holy. A centimeter each year, and continents cross oceans. Mountains rise, oceans close. The face of the planet reshapes, not by force, but by a steady, quiet conviction. And still, the trench remains that narrow, deep scar where one plate bows beneath another. The Mariana Trench, almost 11 kilometers deep, holds more mystery than any mountain peak. Down there, pressure flattens atoms. Life glows with its own quiet chemistry. In the cold silence, life adapts, not despite the descent, but because of it. Isn't that what you're learning too? That in the dark, in the quiet, transformation begins. You close your eyes. In the darkness, you follow the plate deeper, beyond where light has ever touched. The rock bends, it cracks. Tiny earthquakes ripple through the crust, not disasters, but sighs. Each one a rearrangement, a conversation between layers. Beneath you, slabs of ancient seafloor are drawn, inward like pages into a furnace. And yet, nothing here is rushed. Rock becomes fluid only with immense patience. Time folds space. Motion becomes memory, further still, beneath hundreds of kilometers of crust and mantle. The plate begins to fade into the surrounding heat. It blurs. It blends. The boundary between what once was and what will be begins to dissolve. The subducted plate may break. It may sink to the very base of the mantle. Or it may linger, floating like a dream within the Earth's vast interior. Not quite gone, not yet reborn. You feel this now, that in every deep surrender, something waits, not as punishment, but as potential. In the silence of letting go, there is a promise of return. The heat from subduction fuels more than magma. It powers the churning of the mantle itself. Convection, slow and cyclical. Warm rock rises, cool rock sinks. It is breath on a planetary scale, a circulation not of air, but of stone and time. This is the engine of tectonics. This is how continents drift, break, and reunite. Even the Himalayas, proud and high, trace their roots to a vanished ocean, to the silent dive of the Tethys seafloor. What sinks may one day rise as the tallest thing on earth. Can you sense the grace in that? In subduction, there is humility, a yielding, a bowing down. But there is also power, the kind that shapes planets, stirs oceans, and awakens mountains. It is quiet, but not weak. It is slow, but not lost. It is the paradox of the planet's pulse, downward motion that creates upward beauty. You breathe deeply, and your body remembers this cycle. Inhaling, exhaling, rising, sinking, holding, releasing. Your cells know the ancient rhythm. Your bones, too, are recycled rock, calcium once washed from ancient seafloor, now cradled in the cathedral of your frame. You are Earth's memory, walking, dreaming, dissolving, becoming, and still, the plate descends. At depth, new minerals form. Olivine becomes spinel, becomes perovskite. Pressure reshapes the very fabric of atoms. Rock rearranges its inner patterns, like thought slowly changing shape in the quiet night. What was once brittle becomes soft. What was cold becomes bright. Change does not roar here. It hums. And sometimes, in this melting, in this pressurized dreamscape, new plumes of heat push upward. Not immediately, not always, but one day, a hot spot, a mantle plume, a volcano rising not near the trench, but far inland, like Yellowstone, like Iceland, like a thought too long buried, finally surfacing. You drift between layers now, the descending crust, the mantle's slow fire, the crust above, stretched and trembling. You are inside the Earth's breath, rocking gently between inhale and exhale, between letting go and becoming. What was solid becomes soft. What was separate becomes whole. This is the alchemy of pressure, the meditation of stone. In surrender, strength is found. In descent, creation brews. You feel it in your chest, the weight of history, the warmth of change. You are not falling. You are folding in. Being held above the arc of volcanoes, burns softly under moonlight. Below, the plate continues downward. It will not stop for eons, but its path is a promise. One day it will melt. One day it will rise. One day it will shape land again. You too are not finished. You are reshaping, and as you drift deeper into sleep, let the trench cradle you. Let the magma warm your memory. Let the plate's slow bow teach you to trust descent. For what vanishes in form may rise again in purpose. Beneath you, the cycle continues. Beneath you, earth sings, and above, in the still silence between tremors, you begin to wonder. What happens when continents collide? You rest tonight on a bed of stone, lulled by the idea of steady ground beneath you. The earth feels solid, patient, a great cradle of calm that rocks you gently. But far below, in places you cannot see, the crust does not always keep it slow. Deliberate pace, sometimes, like a sleeper rolling restlessly in a dream, the plates slip without warning. You feel their sudden motion ripple through the ground, as if the world itself takes a sharp breath and forgets how to hold still. The Earth's crust is a puzzle of immense slabs, each pressing against the others with ancient weight. They grip one another, locking fingers of stone across hidden seams. Stress builds there, deep and quiet, until the rocks can bear no more. When the strain finally breaks, the plates lurch, and the world sighs in the language of earthquakes. A tremor begins, a whisper that grows into a shiver, moving through soil and stone like a pulse. A reminder that stillness is never absolute. You can imagine these faults as scars, faint lines crisscrossing the face of the planet. They hold memories of past jolts and futures yet to come. Each one tells a story of tension and release, of energy stored like a coiled spring. When it unravels, it can shake cities and mountains alike. Yet even in their violence, earthquakes belong to the same steady rhythm that builds continents and lifts mountains. They are not a betrayal of the Earth's nature, but a necessary beat in its long, ongoing song. Picture your own heartbeat, steady and calm in your resting body. Sometimes it skips or flutters, a small reminder that living things are never perfectly predictable. In the same way, the crust's movement is mostly gentle and slow, but occasionally it jerks, as if startled awake by dreams of old collisions. An earthquake is the planet's brief panic, a reminder that it too is alive in its own deep, rocky way. You lie here, listening in your mind to the murmur of distant lands, faults that slip near the ocean, fractures that quake beneath tall mountains, cities that have been rebuilt again and again, like children learning to stand after a fall. Each earthquake reshapes not just the ground, but the people who live upon it. Generations adapt, build stronger homes, and learn the hidden patterns of the Earth's restlessness. Sometimes the quakes are small, so small that you might not even feel them, like a cat brushing past you in the dark. Other times they roar with terrible strength, toppling buildings, cracking roads, and frightening hearts. But even those fierce quakes are simply the plates trying to find balance again. The tension must go somewhere, and the earth releases it. In a sudden, uncontrollable exhale, deep below you, rocks grind and slip, like teeth shifting in a slow-motion bite. They catch and hold, then break free in a flash of motion, measured not in seconds, but in millennia of preparation. It is as if the planet holds its breath for hundreds of years, then sighs in a moment of trembling release. You might hear of a quake on the other side of the world and wonder how something so far away could matter, yet it is all connected. The plates are one continuous shell, pieces of a whole that cannot be separated, no matter how many names you give them. Tonight, as you lie safe in your quiet room, you can sense how small these motions truly are in the scale of the universe. The planet's shifting plates move inches per year, no faster than your fingernails grow. But when they slip in a sudden moment, it feels like the world itself is coming apart. That is the illusion of earthquakes. They compress centuries of strain into a few shattering seconds, leaving you humbled before the power of stone. Still, there is a strange comfort in knowing earthquakes are part of the same system that builds mountains, creates valleys, and renews ocean basins. Destruction is not the end, but simply a pause before rebirth. Cities rise again, trees take root in broken ground, and even the deepest wounds in the crust will one day become gentle hills. You breathe slowly, imagining that everything you fear about a quake is balanced by everything it makes possible. In Japan, they call it the trembling world, a place where the land dances to a tune older than language. There, people live with earthquakes as they might live with the seasons, accepting that the shaking ground is neither an enemy nor a friend, but something woven into the fabric of existence. You can learn from them, taking this calm acceptance into your own sleep, letting the thought of tremors remind you that life itself is never completely still. Close your eyes and imagine the ripples of an earthquake as circles spreading through a pond. The further they travel, the softer they become, until they fade into stillness again. So, to do the aftershocks, smaller echoes of the main quake, reminding you that even great disturbances settle eventually. Nothing stays in chaos forever, and no motion is truly endless. You feel the deep warmth of the earth below, its ancient heart still beating beneath miles of rock. Its heat and pressure flow in unseen rivers of molten stone, fueling volcanoes and shifting plates. These same forces that crack the crust also keep the core of the planet alive, churning like the dreams of a sleeping giant. And as the plates shift, they let this deep energy escape, renewing the surface over and over again. Breathe in and feel how steady your body is, even as the world below moves in hidden rhythms. There is a powerful serenity in this knowledge that even when the earth trembles, it does so as part of its own long, patient story. You rest upon a restless planet, yet you can still find peace, knowing its movements are natural, predictable, in their unpredictability, like the storms of the sea or the wind through ancient forests. As the chapter closes, you sense the gentle hush returning, the ground once more calm, as if the planet has sighed and settled back into its dream. But that calm does not mean the end of its journey. Beneath the oceans, far from your quiet bed, new ground is being born, where plates drift apart and molten rock emerges in darkness. You wonder then where the seafloor itself begins and how such hidden forces create a world out of fire, water, and silence. You'll listen to the calm once more, letting it carry you toward the mystery of where oceans open, waiting to be discovered. You stand upon the skin of a world that breathes fire. Beneath your feet, deep in hidden chambers, molten stone stirs like a dreamer, shifting in sleep. It is easy to imagine the earth itself, dreaming, vast, ancient, and alive in ways you can almost feel within its heart. Heat moves with the slow certainty of centuries, gathering in secret places, until one day it must rise and speak in a language of fire. Volcanoes are the voice of these hidden dreams where the planet's deep. Memories break free in a rush of lava and ash. You sense the ancientness of it, how each eruption is a sigh from a world that has been forming and reforming since long before you ever arrived to witness it. You walk closer in your mind, tracing the outline of a volcano's silhouette against a pale sky. Its slopes rise like a monument to something older than time, reminding you of a sleeping giant whose breath trembles with power. When it stirs, the air itself quivers, and a river of molten light flows forth, sculpting the land in ways that seem destructive at first glance, but are, in truth, acts of renewal. Each drop of lava is a building block, hardening into new ground, a place for future life to take root. You can almost hear the mountain whisper as it reshapes the world, a quiet song hidden within the roar of its eruption. There is beauty even in the violence. The fire is not mindless rage, but more like the slow, unhurried pulse of a living creature keeping itself warm. Underneath the fierce glow, there is a strange patience. Lava travels down the mountain's shoulder with a grace you did not expect, moving with the measured rhythm of an ancient dance. Its heat is not just destruction. It is also the spark of creation, a reminder that the surface of this planet is still alive, still growing, still becoming. You feel that growth in the warmth that reaches up through the ground, a living thread that ties you to the heart of the world. Ash fills the sky in dark, drifting layers, like the pages of an old story, turned one by one. Each flake of ash carries a memory of the minerals within the earth, a record of everything that was and everything that will be. When the ash falls back to the ground, it becomes food for forests yet to come, enriching the soil so that seeds can sprout and bloom. You can see, in this cycle, a quiet sort of generosity. The volcano gives of itself, sharing its minerals with the world above. Even in the loudness of its eruption, there is a profound softness at its core, the desire to renew. You close your eyes and listen for the heartbeat of these fire-breathing mountains. It is there, steady and calm, pulsing far below the crust. It is easy to forget how alive the planet truly is, to mistake the stillness of its surface for a final peace. But volcanoes remind you, beneath every quiet meadow and every gentle hillside, there is a river of energy waiting patiently. That energy is the Earth's promise to itself, to keep changing, to keep moving, to keep dreaming. You feel a deep sense of humility standing before that promise, knowing how small and fleeting your own worries are compared to these cycles that span millions of years. Sometimes you wonder what the Encanto dreams about in its long sleep between eruptions. Perhaps it dreams of the oceans that once covered these lands, or the creatures that have walked across its cooled lava in ages past. Perhaps it dreams of becoming a mountain of green, its slopes covered in forest, its flanks home to birds and deer and insects, all living upon what was once a river of fire. Maybe, in its quiet moments, it remembers that everything it destroys, it also remakes. You see in this a lesson about your own life, that even in moments of chaos, there is the seed of something new waiting to emerge. You walk around the crater in your imagination, tracing the cracks that split the rim. They look like scars on an ancient face, telling a story of many awakenings. Some of these scars still breathe a faint warmth, as if the fire beneath them refuses to fully die. You kneel and touch the cooled lava, feeling how rough it is, yet how permanent. The black stone is a reminder of what was once liquid, moving like a river of stars. It is hard to believe this rock once glowed so brightly, but the memory of that heat is stored within it, a fossil of fire, down the mountainside. You follow a path cut by older lava flows, their surfaces smoothed by wind and rain over centuries. Life grows here, against all odds, tough little plants with green leaves that drink from the mineral-rich soil, roots twining through cracks in the stone. It makes you smile, seeing how quickly life returns to what once seemed ruined. Earth does not hold grudges. It simply moves on, turning even its fiercest outbursts into opportunities for new beginnings. You carry that thought with you, letting it soften the edges of your own regrets and mistakes. The ground below is always restless, you realize. Magma rises and falls, reshaping the world in deep, hidden ways. These currents of molten rock are as vital to the planet as blood is to your own body. They cycle nutrients, shift continents, open new seafloors, close old oceans. You feel small before these grand, slow processes, but not afraid, because they mean that the earth is still alive, still telling its story, and you are a listener, standing in awe of each word written in ash and fire. Smoke billows from the volcano's mouth, rising into the air like a prayer. You watch it drift away, carrying particles of the earth to the farthest winds, where they will fall again as dust settle into the soil and become part of something green and living. It is hard to think of this as destruction when you see how connected everything becomes in the end. One day, a forest will rise from this volcanic plain. One day, birds will nest in the branches, and their songs will echo where molten rivers once flowed. There is a peace in that certainty, a kind of cosmic forgiveness that lets you breathe easier, knowing all wounds can heal. In the glow of the volcanoes' fires, you see your own reflection. You, too, carry heat within you, a restless, molten will that sometimes breaks through and reshapes your world. You too must erupt from time to time, letting go of what you have held too tightly, trusting that something gentler will grow. Afterward, the volcano shows you that even fierce change can be part of a greater calm, and that you can stand tall again even after your fiercest storms. Night begins to fall around the dreaming mountain. Its glow dims, as if its story is ready to sleep once more. You feel a quiet gratitude that you could witness its language of fire, its art of remaking. As the darkness gathers, you wonder what other forces beneath your feet wait patiently to rise, to remind you of the living planet you call home. You stand on familiar ground, and yet, beneath your feet, there is a story older than any name you know. The continents themselves hold a memory that stretches back through unthinkable time, like a dream too vast to wake from. Every cliff, every valley, every hidden stone carries a silent record of places once far apart, now gathered together. It is as if the land itself remembers, whispering through its layers of rock, telling you of oceans crossed, mountains raised and worn away, creatures born and vanished. You feel the weight of those stories in the ground, a quiet gravity that holds the truth of how things came to be. You picture the continents as slow, drifting rafts, riding upon seas of molten rock that shift and flow deep below. Slowly, you cannot see them dance, yet move they do, carried by the restless heart of the planet. Millions of years pass like moments to these enormous landmasses, which break apart, wander across the globe, and meet again as if greeting old friends. The continents remember every collision, every separation, every mountain range born in their embrace. You sense that memory in the layers of folded stone and fossils locked away beneath your feet. in minerals that glimmer like forgotten stars in the dimness of a canyon wall. Sometimes you pause at the thought of where your own home once lay. Perhaps the ground beneath you was once part of a desert or a seabed, or the shoulder of a tall mountain now lost to time. It is humbling to know that your land was once carried on the currents of the earth, like a leaf upon a slow boiling river. You picture a map of this ancient world, continents clustered in strange shapes, then breaking free and drifting to places you recognize today. Each inch of movement took centuries, but still they moved, never still, never finished. You bend closer to the rocks, reading their layers as if they were pages in a secret journal. You see fossils pressed into the stone, delicate shells that speak of long-gone seas. Ferns that once waved beneath a tropical sun now turn to coal. You imagine their tiny lives blooming and fading, unknowing that they would someday be found, cradled in the palm of a wondering human. These fossils are messages from a time no one remembers, and yet they tell you this place has changed and will change again. The continents are not static, nor are you at the edges of continents. Deep scars cut through the crust, marking where they have torn apart or crushed together. These scars are fault lines, fracture zones, reminders of a restless dance. You picture the slow grind of plates colliding, their rocky bodies forced upward until they buckle into mountain chains. The Himalayas, the Andes, the Alps, these are monuments to ancient collisions, still rising, still telling their tale. You can stand on a mountaintop and feel that story echo through your bones, a reminder of forces far older and stronger than any human endeavor. Sometimes, the continents break so cleanly that oceans rush in to fill the wound, creating new seas where once there was only rock. And sometimes, they close again, swallowing oceans to birth new mountains. It is a cycle as steady as breath, but stretched across an unimaginably vast lifetime. You trace this breath with your thoughts, inhaling when continents pull apart, exhaling when they reunite. There is a rhythm to the Earth's memory, and you can almost hear it if you listen long enough. A slow, rolling heartbeat of stone. You walk in your mind across the vast plains of an ancient continent. Under the soil, iron-rich rocks glimmer, whispering of the deep past when they first crystallized in the furnace of the planet's youth. These ancient cratons, the cores of continents, have survived billions of years, carrying the oldest secrets the Earth has to share. You sense their endurance, their calm certainty, the way they remain through ice ages and firestorms, through drifting and colliding. They are the silent witnesses to everything the world has done to itself, and everything it has survived. You could lift these continents and look underneath. You would see their roots stretching far down, like the roots of a tree drinking from the molten mantle. These roots anchor them against the tug and pull of moving plates, holding them steady through time. Even the continents need something to hold on to, you realize. They drift, yes, but they also cling to ancient pieces of themselves, refusing to let go of where they began. Perhaps you too have such roots, memories and places that hold you firm. No matter how far you travel, the more you think about it, the more you see the continents as living beings, resting but never truly asleep. They sigh through earthquakes, breathe through volcanoes, and wander through the ages in slow-motion journeys. Their borders shift, erode, and grow, like skin healing over a wound. You wonder what stories your own land might tell if it could speak, stories of heat and pressure, of breaking and healing, of carrying life upon its back. Always, no matter how many times it was torn apart and remade, there is a strange tenderness. In these thoughts, you stand on land that has been through unimaginable trials, and yet here it is, steady beneath you. Its surface welcomes your footsteps. Its minerals nourish your fields. Its rivers quench your thirst. The earth does not hold its memories with bitterness, but with a quiet acceptance. It bears the scars, yes, but allows new forests to grow over, them new seeds to take root, new creatures to make their homes upon its shifting shoulders. In the cliffs and canyons, you see lines of color, one layer upon another, like a rainbow turned to stone. Each layer marks a moment in time, a flood, a drought, a forest that burned, a desert that bloomed. You reach out with your mind and trace these colors, feeling how each one is a note in the continent's song. Taken together, they form a harmony of deep time, telling you that change is not the enemy, but the nature of this place. The continents remember, but they do not mourn. They move forward, carrying their memories as a foundation for what comes next. You breathe slowly, taking. In the comfort of that lesson, you too carry memories in layers. Some are joyful, some are painful, but they are all part of the bedrock that makes you who you are. Like the continents, you can shift and change, wander far from where you began, and still hold a core of yourself deep within. You can welcome new landscapes into your heart while honoring the fossils of what came before. Night begins to soften the horizon. As you stand upon this dreaming land, the wind picks up, stirring leaves, rattling stones, reminding you that even now, the continents move, just a tiny distance each year, but moving all the same. It feels peaceful, somehow, to know that you stand on something that drifts so slowly you cannot sense it, yet never stops its quiet voyage. You trust this ancient journey, knowing that you are carried along with it, safe upon the back of a world that has survived everything time could throw at it. In the gentle hush of twilight, you listen for the faintest tremor below. Somewhere far underfoot, the earth adjusts its bones, as if stretching after a long sleep. You know that, eventually, these movements will change the map of the world again. But tonight, you rest upon this moment, grateful for the continents that remember their past, that hold you safely as they drift into the future. You lie quietly now, aware that the ground beneath you is not as solid as it seems. It is easy to forget, in the calmness of a green field or the hush of a forest floor, that the entire world is moving, always shifting, always breaking and rebuilding. Itself, the continents, the oceans, the mountains you trust to stand still, all of them ride upon restless plates, pieces of a grand unfinished puzzle carried by the secret heat of the planet's hidden heart. It is a puzzle that has no final picture, no fixed solution, only endless rearrangements. Like dreams repeating themselves in new shapes each night, you imagine these plates from far above, as if you could see the entire globe glowing faintly. Under starlight, they drift slowly across the surface, massive slabs of rock carried by deep molten currents, bumping together, pulling apart, colliding in their silent, ageless waltz. You can see Africa moving away from South America, the Atlantic growing wider like a slow breath. You can see India pushing into Asia, the Himalayas rising like a furrow in a wrinkling brow. You can see the Pacific shrinking, its ancient seafloor vanishing beneath coasts rimmed with fire. Each movement is measured in inches each year, but given enough time, those inches become continents torn apart or fused together again. This puzzle is never truly finished, for the pieces themselves change. As they move, they fracture, crack, and melt, becoming new again, the way thoughts change as you grow. You sense the wonder of that. The earth is never stuck in one form, never content to be only what it was yesterday. Instead, it learns, shifts, tries again, letting old mountains wear down while new ones rise. This restlessness is not a flaw, it is a sign of the planet's life. Like a heartbeat or a breath, it must keep moving to survive. You walk in your imagination along the edges where plates meet. Here the puzzle is loudest. Volcanoes spill glowing rivers of lava, adding new land to the world. Earthquakes rumble through the rock, breaking what was once smooth and making space for something else to grow. The edges of the puzzle are rough, but they are the places where tomorrow's continents are made. You listen to these fault lines as if they were the cracks in your own heart, knowing that the breaking too has its purpose. As you rest on this drifting world, you marvel that everything familiar, every house, every tree, every quiet road rides upon these traveling stones. Your footsteps trace a path upon a surface that will one day belong to a different ocean, or perhaps a different mountain altogether. It feels strange, almost like standing on the deck of a ship, rocked gently by invisible waves of molten stone. The ground, which seems so steady, is really an ancient raft, carried by hidden currents, too slow for your eyes to see. You think of the puzzle's oldest pieces, the cratons, those unyielding fragments of Earth's first crust, still moving, still part of the dance. These are the puzzle's anchor points, relics of an age when the Earth was only beginning to cool, and they have drifted through countless collisions and breakings. You sense their patience, their strength, the way they refuse to vanish, even as everything changes around them. Perhaps there is something in you like that, a small, steady part that holds fast through all your own earthquakes. If you could follow the puzzle forward, thousands or millions of years, you would see a world remade once more. Close continents drawn back together in a new supercontinent. Mountains crushed up from the seabed, whole coastlines turned inside out. Oceans might form where mountains once stood, and familiar lands might vanish under the sea. Nothing about the puzzle is permanent, yet everything leaves traces behind. Fossils, stones, old shorelines, layered memories of what was. The planet keeps those memories safe, and someday, someone else may find them and wonder what it was like to stand where you stand now. You take comfort in this idea that the Earth remembers, even if you cannot, that its puzzle pieces carry their history, layered in rock, waiting patiently to be read. When you feel small and fleeting, you can trust that you are part of something vast, something that drifts through time without fear of being unfinished. The puzzle is not meant to end, only to keep changing, and you can rest in the flow of its ceaseless rearrangement. Sometimes the puzzle seems chaotic, as if its pieces break more than they build. But look closer, and you will see how these breaks open space for something new. Fresh oceans, new coastlines, unknown lands that will welcome new life. You realize that breaking is part of healing, that shifting is part of becoming. Is wisdom in these drifting plates, if you choose to hear it. They teach you that no arrangement of your life is final, that every crack is a chance to grow. You sit with that thought, breathing slowly, letting the rhythm of the moving world soothe you. In the deepest parts of the ocean, new crust is always being born as magma rises through the rifts and cools into stone. In this way, the puzzle never loses its pieces. It only remakes them endlessly, tirelessly, patiently. The earth is like an artist who never stops painting, willing to revise and reimagine its canvas for as long as time will allow. And you, too, float upon this living work of art. Even while you sleep, the plates carry you across unseen oceans of molten rock, nudging you forward into a future you cannot yet see. You do not need to rush to solve this puzzle. There is no final answer waiting for you. The joy is in the journey, in the slow rearrangement of what was in to what might be. You close your eyes and feel the motion below, a reminder that you are never truly still, not even in your quietest moments. Night deepens around you, and you sense the planet's breathing. Its heat, its gentle shivers, its drifting dreams wrap you like a blanket. You rest, held by a world that will keep moving long after you are gone, a world that will carry stories forward on plates that never sleep. You trust the puzzle to continue, to change, to remember. And as you lie in this knowledge, you feel the mystery of it, how comforting it is to be part of something so immense, so unfinished, so beautifully alive.